Once upon a time, on an uninhabited island on the coast of the Red Sea, there lived a monkey. This monkey had a stove, and he loved to bake cakes. On one particularly nice day, he took his stove down to the beach, and he took some flour, and he took some honey, and he took some milk, and he took some currants, and other cake baking things. And he baked himself a beautiful cake, one 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep. He placed it on the stove and cooked it and baked it until it was all done and golden brown, and the smells filled your nose and the aromas wafted all over the island. It was a delicious cake. But then there was a snuffling and a snorting, and out of the forest lumbered a great big rhinoceros. The rhinoceros with one big horn on his face and 2 little piggy eyes and absolutely no manners. He had no manners then, he has no manners now, and he will never have any manners. Also, his skin was very tight. In those days, rhinoceroses had very smooth skin, with no folds in it at all. But anyway, he had no manners. And he said, "Hoo!" and scared the monkey, and the monkey ran up a tree and hid behind a coconut. Thought the rhinoceros, and he went over to the cake, knocked it over with his nose, and it rolled into the sand. And then he pierced it with his horn, flipped it into the air, and gobbled it up in one go. And then he waddled back off into the forest. The monkey climbed down from his tree and was very upset. But he didn't have long to wait for his revenge. 5 weeks later, there was a heat wave on the island, and all the animals ran down to the beach and took off their clothes to swim in the sea. The rhinoceros was there, and he said nothing of the cake to the monkey. And he unbuttoned his skin. Oh, in those days, rhinoceroses had buttons on their skin, and he wore his skin like an overcoat. Anyway, he unbuttoned his skin, 1 button, 2 button, 3 button, and laid it on the beach, and went into the water. The monkey climbed down from the tree, and ran over to the skin, rubbing his hands together in glee. He danced around the skin 3 times, and smiled a smile that went round his head twice. He ran back to his camp, and he picked up all the cake crumbs, because he never cleaned out his camp, and he ate a lot of cake. He took the crumbs and some burnt currants, and he ran back to the skin, and placed as much as he could into the skin. And then he rubbed it, and he rolled it, and he scrubbed it, and he rolled it up, and filled it up with so many cake crumbs that you couldn't imagine any more cake crumbs could fit into that skin. Then he laid it out, went back to his tree, and hid, and waited for the rhinoceros to come out of the water. Which he did. He put his skin back on, buttoned them up, 1 button, 2 button, 3 button. And then he felt an itch. He felt another itch. He felt a scratch and a niggle, and he could feel all the crumbs underneath his skin, like crumbs in a bedsheet. And he scratched, and that didn't do anything. He rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled on the beach, and that did nothing except make the crumbs worse. And then he ran to a tree, a nice jaggedy palm tree, and he rubbed his skin up against the tree, and that did nothing except make great big folds that went right over his shoulder, and a great big fold that went over his belly, and he rubbed his bum against the tree, and great big folds went over his legs, and he got angrier and angrier and meaner and meaner until he was just a great big ball of folds, all angry and grey. And he couldn't take his skin off again, because he had rubbed all the buttons off of it. And he lumbered back
into the forest.
And that, my dears, is why a rhinoceros's skin is so covered in folds, and why they are always so bad-tempered. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go away. It's my birthday, you see, and I have to go see a monkey about a cake. Goodbye!